As graduation day approached, everyone had already received their job offers, everyone except me and my boyfriend Ryan. For 4 years, we had been preparing for one thing: to get into Sunvale. Yet today, I happened to overhear his conversation with a friend in the tea room. "That's pretty wild," his friend said. "You're really turning down Sunvale just because of that intern? What about Hannah?" Ryan chuckled. "It's fine. She never really has her own opinions. Once I make my decision, she'll follow anyway. There's no way she could survive in Sunvale on her own." My hand froze midair. The cup in my hand was still warm. I stood there for a long time before quietly turning away and walking out. That evening, I didn't ask him about job hunting like I usually did. I didn't discuss our future plans either. But strangely, I wasn't as sad as I thought I would be. I calmly continued sending out my applications to companies in Sunvale. I understood then, some people are simply not meant to walk together all the way to the end. In the tea room, Ryan's friend, Jason, sounded confused. "No opinions? That doesn't sound right. I think Hannah's got her own mind. She was the one who stayed up all night working on those project proposals." Ryan began to sound impatient. "The framework and ideas were mine. She's only good at execution. She can make slides, sure, but when it comes to making real decisions, has she ever once not followed what I said?" He paused for a moment, then his tone turned colder. "Besides, what could she even do without me? If she went to Sunvale alone, she wouldn't last 3 months before crying and begging to come back. Might as well take Emily with me to East Bridge. It's less trouble that way." Jason seemed convinced and clicked his tongue in admiration. "You're something else, Ryan. Must be nice, people to your left, people to your right, you've got it good like a king." Again, my hand froze midair. The warmth from the cup seeped into my fingertips, but it couldn't chase away the chill spreading through my chest. So in his eyes, I was nothing more than someone dependent on him. Someone who couldn't survive without him. I stood there for a long time before quietly returning to my seat. The computer screen still glowed, displaying the resume I had revised hundreds of times to send to Sunvale. Every line, every word, seemed to mock my own foolishness. Ryan and I had been together since freshman year. Back then, we stood together on the rooftop of the library, pointing toward the faint city lights in the distance. Ryan held my hand and said, "Hannah, let's go to Sunvale together. That's where dreams are closest. We'll build our future there." I nodded eagerly, my eyes sparkling brighter than the city lights below. For that shared dream, I gave up the chance to go straight to graduate school and turned down the stable job my parents had arranged for me back home. We studied together in the library, hunted for internships, and stayed up countless nights finishing projects. I thought we were deeply in love, soulmates who understood each other completely, two people running side by side toward the same future. I never once questioned whether the "we" in his words truly meant two equals, until this very moment. At 5 in the evening, Ryan texted me, "Baby, what do you want to eat tonight? I'll make a reservation." I stared at the message for a long time without replying. Then a notification popped up on my phone. Graduation season is also the season of goodbyes. I stared at that line for several seconds, then quietly laughed. I laughed at that cliché I used to scoff at, because now it described my reality with chilling accuracy. So, Ryan and I were no exception to that ordinary rule after all. My fingers slid across the screen, and the message disappeared. I didn't feel the slightest regret. I kept browsing job postings in Sunvale. I had worked this hard to climb my own mountain, not to trail behind anyone else. If he had decided to get off the road halfway through, then I would keep walking, on my own. If he had chosen to get on another train, then the only thing I could do was wish him a smooth journey. As for me, my own path would continue forward. He had his choice, and I had the place my heart longed to reach. We had simply walked together up to this point. When I returned to the apartment we shared, Ryan had already bought my favorite dish, braised fish with pickled mustard greens, and was humming a tune in the kitchen. "You're home," he said, poking his head out of the kitchen, his bangs damp with sweat, his smile as bright as ever. "Go wash your hands, dinner's almost ready. I even got tofu tonight, your favorite fish dish." If it had been any other day, I would have run up behind him, wrapped my arms around his waist, and told him, "You're the best boyfriend in the world." But today, I only forced a faint smile and replied softly, before quietly walking into the bedroom. He must have sensed my coldness because just before I closed the door, he called out, "What's wrong, babe? Didn't your job applications go well?" "Not really," I replied briefly, offering no further explanation. I closed the door, threw myself onto the soft bed, and stared blankly at the ceiling, my mind tangled like a mess of threads. The intern Jason had mentioned earlier, her name was Emily. She had only been with the company for 2 months. She had a bright, innocent look, a gentle voice, and eyes that always seemed to shimmer with naive curiosity. Something about her naturally made people want to protect her. When she first joined, she wasn't used to the workload, and as her mentor, Ryan really did help her a lot. It wasn't as though I hadn't noticed the subtle changes between them. For instance, at some point, Ryan's phone lock screen had changed, from a photo of the two of us together to a landscape shot. When I asked, he said it looked more professional in a work environment. Then there were the frequent late nights. Ryan had started working overtime more often, and coincidentally, Emily was always there too. I once half-jokingly asked if he had a crush on the pretty new intern. He had cupped my cheeks with a serious look and said, "What are you thinking? I just care about her as a senior helping a junior. She's new to the city. It's not easy for her. I'm just lending a hand. Don't overthink it. You're the only one in my heart." And I believed him, because Ryan had never lied to me. In our 4 years together, he had always been my strongest support. But now those same words of reassurance and affection had turned into the sharpest blades, cutting through the trust I once held so tightly. Dinner that night was filled with an awkward tension. Ryan tried several times to start a conversation, but I only gave vague, disinterested answers. "Oh right, Hannah," he said finally, setting his chopsticks down and looking at me seriously. "About work, I've been thinking, and I wanted to discuss something with you." I froze slightly. I knew this was what he'd been leading up to. "Go on," I said. "Lately, I've been looking into some opportunities in Eastbridge," he began. "That city's developing quickly too, but the pace of life is slower than in Sunvale. The pressure's not as heavy. I think maybe we should consider moving there instead." He watched me closely, choosing each word with care. He didn't even have the courage to admit he had already made up his mind, so he disguised it as a discussion, covering his selfish decision with the illusion of consideration. I laughed coldly inside, but kept my expression calm. "Why do you suddenly want to go to Eastbridge? Didn't we plan from the very beginning to build our future in Sunvale?" Ryan's eyes flickered, and he avoided answering directly. "It's not really that sudden," he said after a pause. "I've thought about it carefully. Sunvale's housing prices are high, competition is fierce, and we're just fresh graduates. Life there would be really tough. Eastbridge is different. The food's really good there. You love hot pot and spicy skewers, right? Once we're there, I'll take you out to eat every day." Ryan was trying to tempt me with food, as if I were a child he could coax into obedience with treats. But our entire career plan revolved around the internet industry, centered in Sunvale. I calmly pointed that out. Ryan's patience started to wear thin. He frowned slightly. "Plans can change. We're humans, not machines. It doesn't matter where we work, as long as we're working hard. What's important is that we stay together, Hannah. Don't tell me you'd actually leave me just because I want to move to another city." He so effortlessly twisted the situation, turning a change in plans into a test of my loyalty and love. I stared at him and suddenly felt like I was looking at a stranger. The boy who once dreamed of the future with me, who had promised we'd fight side by side, had somehow turned into a man who calculated gains and losses, who was willing to use love as a leash. In the end, the conversation ended in suffocating silence. Ryan slammed the door and left, leaving me alone at the dining table, staring at the cold dishes and untouched food. That weekend, our company had a team-building trip at a homestay on the outskirts of the city. Ryan was driving, and Emily naturally climbed into the passenger seat. Her voice was soft and delicate, barely above a whisper. "I get a little carsick. Sitting in the front might help? I hope that's not too much trouble." "Of course not," Ryan replied immediately, his voice full of concern. "Carsickness is awful. You should definitely sit in the front." Then, as if remembering I existed, he turned and looked at me with an apologetic expression. "Hey Hannah, Emily's not feeling well. Do you mind sitting in the back this time? You don't get motion sickness, right? You'll be fine, won't you?" It sounded like a request, but his hand was already opening the door for her, leaving me no room to refuse. I stayed silent. Ryan had already made his choice. Anything I said would be pointless. As I sat in the back seat, a tightness built in my chest, making it hard to breathe. No, I didn't get carsick, but that was because for years, the passenger seat had always been my spot. Ryan once told me that seat was reserved for the woman who would share his future. And now, he was the one placing another woman there with his own hands, then turning around, expecting me to understand and be reasonable. The whole drive, Emily kept chatting cheerfully with him. The two of them laughed and talked the entire way, their voices mingling in a way that made me feel like an outsider. Me, the woman who had been by his side for 4 years. I put on my headphones and turned the music up to full volume, but I couldn't block out the sound of his laughter or the way his eyes sparkled through the rearview mirror whenever he looked at her. That look, it used to belong to me. Outside the window, the scenery blurred as it passed by. My heart sank lower and lower, as if it were falling into a bottomless pit. When we arrived at the homestay, everyone gathered for a game of truth or dare. On the first round, the bottle pointed straight at Ryan. Jason grinned mischievously. "All right, Ryan, among all the girls here, who do you most want to protect?" It was a sly and dangerous question, and instantly every pair of eyes turned toward Ryan, especially mine and Emily's. I lowered my head, pretending to scroll through my phone, but my ears were alert, catching every word. Ryan hesitated for a moment. His gaze flickered toward Emily and lingered there, just slightly too long before shifting to me. Then he smiled and said, "Of course it's my girlfriend, Hannah. Who else would it be?" It was the perfect answer, flawless on the surface. But that tiny moment of hesitation felt like a needle, stabbing straight into my chest. The room erupted with laughter and teasing. "Wow, Hannah, you're so lucky," someone joked. Emily lifted her glass of fruit juice and smiled sweetly at me. "Don't misunderstand, Hannah. Ryan does take care of me at work, but I know his heart belongs to you." Her voice was soft, gentle, almost fragile, but every word felt deliberately placed, polished to sound innocent, yet sharp enough to pierce. Her voice wasn't loud, but it was just enough for everyone around to hear clearly. The words sounded like an explanation, but in reality they were a declaration of ownership. She had placed herself in the position of being someone Ryan cared for in a special way. I forced a smile and said nothing. Then came the turn for the team to draw lots. As luck would have it, Ryan and Emily were paired together for the 3-legged race. Emily was wearing a short skirt, which made it inconvenient for her to tie the band around her leg. Without a hint of hesitation, Ryan took off his jacket, wrapped it around her waist, and then crouched down to tie the band for her himself. His movements were so natural, so intimate, that everyone immediately started teasing and cheering. "Wow, Ryan, you're way too thoughtful." Someone laughed. "Emily, your face is turning red." "Hannah, you better keep an eye on your boyfriend. He's practically shooting pink bubbles out of his eyes." I sat quietly in a corner, watching the two of them surrounded by laughter and noise. A chill spread from deep inside me. Somewhere along the way, without me even realizing it, a quiet bond had formed between them, an unspoken understanding so obvious that anyone could see it. Anyone except me, the so-called official girlfriend who was still standing in the dark. That night, during the barbecue dinner, I used the excuse of not feeling well and slipped away to the balcony to get some air. It wasn't long before Ryan found me. "Hey, why'd you run off out here? Everyone's looking for you," he said, handing me a cup of hot milk. I didn't take it. "Ryan," I said, staring out toward the distant city lights, my voice calm. "Is there something you're not telling me?" His body tensed for a brief moment, but he quickly recovered his usual composure. "Of course not. Why are you asking that all of a sudden? Then what exactly is going on between you and Emily?" I finally couldn't hold it in any longer. Ryan sighed, the wariness and impatience in his tone impossible to hide. "Hannah, can we not talk about this anymore? I'm exhausted. Every time, it's some trivial thing that turns into an argument. Aren't you tired of it?" Trivial? I let out a bitter laugh. So this is just something trivial to you? What else could it be? He snapped. There's nothing between me and her, we're just coworkers. Why do you always have to nitpick everything? Can't you be a little more mature? Can't you trust me for once? Trust, I repeated, the word tasting sour on my tongue. It was almost funny. This was the same man who had once stood in a tea room, telling his friend that I had no opinions of my own, that I couldn't live without him, and now he was demanding my trust as if he deserved it. In that moment, whatever last illusion I still held completely shattered. The next day, just after we returned from the team-building trip, I received an unexpected phone call from the HR department of the SkyCloud Corporation. "Hello, Miss Hannah," the voice said politely. "We're calling from the SkyCloud headquarters in Sunvale. We've reviewed your application from the spring recruitment session, and after reassessing the candidates, we found that your qualifications are outstanding. You're an excellent fit for our SkyCloud Management Trainee Program. May I ask if you've already accepted another offer? We'd like to invite you to the final interview round." SkyCloud's trainee program had once been the biggest dream Ryan and I pursued together. Each year, it accepted only a handful of applicants from the top universities. The requirements were strict, but the career path it offered was limitless. We had prepared for months, side by side, but both of us had been eliminated in the final round. And now, after all the twists and turns, that same opportunity had returned, only this time, to me alone. I didn't even need to think. "Yes, I'd love to join the final interview," I said without hesitation. When I hung up, I looked out the window and took a deep breath. Maybe this was fate telling me that it was time to walk alone toward the sky we once dreamed of together. To prepare thoroughly for the interview, I took a few days off work. I poured all my focus and energy into preparing for the interview. My roommate and best friend, Megan, couldn't help but comment when she saw me staying up late every night, researching and practicing mock interviews. "Hannah, you're working like your life depends on it," she said, watching me with concern. "What's really going on between you and Ryan? Didn't he say he was moving to Eastbridge? Why are you still applying to companies in Sunvale?" I told her everything I had overheard that day in the tea room. The moment I finished, she jumped up from her chair, furious. "That jerk, Ryan, is the definition of a man blinded by his own ego. Who does he think he is? The world won't stop spinning without him. Hannah, promise me you won't be stupid enough to follow him to Eastbridge. A man who can break a 4-year promise for some intern today can just as easily leave you for another woman tomorrow." I nodded. "I know. That's why I have to make the most of this opportunity." Megan wrapped her arms around me tightly. "That's more like it. Show him that Hannah doesn't need him, that you can shine even brighter without him. Let him see what he's lost when he comes crawling back, begging for forgiveness." Her support cleared away the last trace of hesitation in my heart. When the interview day finally came, I performed better than I ever had before. Faced with a panel of experienced interviewers, I remained calm, confident, and articulate. The difficult projects Ryan and I once stayed up late to complete, the industry insights we had discussed, all of it had now become my own personal strength. When the interview ended, the lead interviewer smiled at me. "Hannah, please keep your phone available. We'll send out the results within 3 business days." Stepping out of the SkyCloud building, the midday sunlight in Sunvale was so bright it made me squint. I stood among the busy crowd, looking up at the towering skyscrapers ahead, and for the first time in a long while, I felt a quiet peace in my heart. This was where I truly belonged. 3 days later, I received an email from SkyCloud's Management Trainee Program, an official offer letter. When I saw the thick, detailed offer package, with its impressive salary and benefits, tears almost filled my eyes. 4 years of youth, countless sleepless nights, and relentless effort had finally paid off. The first thing I did was call Megan. She was even more excited than I was and insisted that we go out for a big celebratory dinner. Ryan, on the other hand, knew nothing about any of this. He had been busy finalizing his paperwork for the job in Eastbridge, strutting around like a man who had just won a major victory. That evening, he came home grinning, holding 2 movie tickets. "Baby, let's go to the movies," he said cheerfully. "We should celebrate me getting the Eastbridge offer." He looked so pleased with himself that I almost pitied him. I watched him calmly and said, "Ryan, I got an offer too." His eyes lit up immediately. "Really? From where? It's in Eastbridge too, right? I knew it. I knew you'd end up following me." That self-assured tone of his, so smug, so certain, made my stomach twist in disgust. "No," I said evenly. "It's not Eastbridge, it's Sunvale, the Skycloud Management Trainee Program." The smile on Ryan's face froze instantly. He just stood there for a few seconds before letting out a forced laugh. "Come on, Hannah, don't joke around. We both got rejected by Skycloud, remember?" "I'm not joking." I held out my phone and showed him the email. The color drained from his face as he stared at the screen, checking it over and over again, before finally looking up in disbelief. How is this possible? Why did they only call you?" "Maybe I fit their requirements better," I replied calmly, taking my phone back. The words hit him like a knife, and for the first time, I saw the pride in his eyes crack. His voice shot up instantly. "Then why didn't you tell me? You decided to go to Sunvale a long time ago, didn't you? You kept it from me. Was that fun for you?" Looking at his agitated face, I couldn't help but laugh bitterly. "Ryan, when you decided to go to Eastbridge, did you ever ask what I thought? When you told Jason at the tea room that I couldn't live without you, did you stop for even 1 second to think about how that would make me feel?" Finally, I laid the truth from that day bare in front of him. His face went pale instantly, his lips parted, but no coherent words came out, only a look of panic and guilt. I was just joking around with them," he stammered. "Really?" I laughed coldly. "Well, I took it seriously. That's why I decided to go to Sunvale myself to see if I can survive without you." I picked up the 2 movie tickets from the table and handed them back to him. "Go see the movie yourself, or take Emily with you. I'm sure she'd be thrilled." Without waiting for a response, I turned around and slammed my bedroom door shut. Outside, silence fell like a heavy weight. Graduation day arrived with clear blue skies and warm sunlight. We wore our caps and gowns, taking photos all over campus, trying to capture the memories of our 4 years together. Ryan and I didn't take a single photo together. Ever since that confrontation, we had fallen into complete Cold War. He tried several times to talk, but I rejected him every time. After the ceremony, our class held a farewell party. Everyone raised their glasses, toasting to bright futures, and saying we'd meet again, out there in the world. The mood was loud, but tinged with melancholy. When it came time for everyone to share their future plans, Ryan stood up, lifted his glass of wine, and, while looking straight at me, said hoarsely, "I've signed with a company in Eastbridge." The entire table turned to look at me. Everyone knew we had been the most stable couple in class, inseparable for 4 years, so naturally, everyone assumed we would start our new journey together. Jason immediately broke the tension. "I bet Hannah's going to Eastbridge too, right? Following her man, like always." Ryan didn't deny it. He just stayed silent, staring at me, waiting for me to soften, to let go of everything that had happened. I met his gaze, then calmly stood up, raised my glass of juice and said, "I wish you all the best in Eastbridge, Ryan." I paused, then smiled. "As for me, I've accepted an offer from Skycloud's Management Trainee Program. I'll be reporting to the headquarters in Sunvale next week." The entire banquet hall fell silent. Everyone froze, eyes wide in shock and disbelief. Ryan's face turned ashen, his hand trembled so hard the wine sloshed over the rim of his glass. His knuckles went white, the veins in his hands standing out sharply. "Hannah," he hissed through gritted teeth, his voice shaking with anger. I ignored him. Turning to our homeroom teacher, I lifted my glass again. "Mr. Wang, this toast is for you. Thank you for guiding us through these past 4 years." I drank it all in one go, swallowing down every lingering emotion with it. The second half of the party grew noticeably awkward. Ryan kept drinking, glass after glass, until he was completely drunk. I, on the other hand, smiled and chatted with my classmates as if nothing had happened. When the party finally ended, a few friends dragged Ryan to a karaoke bar, but he barely made it to the doorway before throwing up everywhere. Megan and I were about to call a cab when he suddenly grabbed my wrist. His eyes were bloodshot, and the smell of alcohol was overwhelming. "Hannah, do you really have to be this heartless? After 4 years, can you really just walk away?" I yanked my hand free, my voice cold. Let go. He refused. Clutching my wrist again, he pressed on desperately. Just tell me, did you want to break up all along? Is that it? You're only leaving me because I didn't get into SkyCloud, aren't you? Isn't that right? He shouted, his voice shaking with frustration. He was trying to pin all the blame on me, but as I looked at his disheveled, desperate expression, all I could feel was disgust. Whatever affection I had left for him vanished completely. Ryan, I said, enunciating each word clearly, you're the one who threw away the promise we made. You're the one who abandoned our shared dream. You chose Eastbridge. You chose Emily. So what right do you have to question me now? My words left him speechless. His mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out, only the same hollow repetition. I didn't. There's nothing between me and her, I swear. I didn't want to waste another breath. I yanked my wrist free and walked away, dragging Megan with me. I didn't look back once. Through the rearview mirror of the taxi, I saw Ryan's figure growing smaller and smaller until it disappeared completely among the dazzling city lights. Goodbye, Ryan. Goodbye to 4 years of my youth. Leaving campus behind, I boarded a train alone, heading toward Sunvale. Ryan sent me dozens of messages and called countless times, but I didn't answer any of them. The last message arrived just before I boarded. Hannah, are you really going to Sunvale alone? A girl like you, in a strange city, with no one you know? It's going to be so hard. Please, I'm begging you, don't go. His tone was weak, almost pleading, but to me, it still reeked of arrogance, his refusal to believe I could live well without him. He still didn't think I was capable of standing on my own. I powered off my phone, cutting off every bit of noise from the world outside the train window. Life in Sunvale settled faster than I had imagined. The company arranged temporary dorm housing for SkyCloud's management trainees, clean, comfortable, and fully equipped. My roommate, Clara, worked in another department. She was cheerful and easy to talk to. We quickly got along. On my first day at work, I met the entire new trainee group, 12 of us in total, all graduates from top universities across the country. Every one of them had impressive resumes and endless enthusiasm. Standing among such exceptional people, I felt both pressure and motivation surging inside me. The following weeks were filled with intense rotation training, challenging but rewarding. We were assigned to different core departments, starting from the most basic tasks. I was placed in the strategic investment department, where my work involved analyzing massive data sets and writing detailed market research reports to support the company's investment decisions. The workload was enormous. Late nights were normal, but I didn't mind. Every time I solved a tough problem or had a report recognized by my supervisor, a deep sense of accomplishment bloomed inside me, something I had never truly felt before. I began to enjoy the feeling of climbing each step of success through my own ability. It turned out I could do it. I didn't need to depend on anyone. I could be my own foundation. Life in Sunvale gradually fell into rhythm. I adapted to the city's fast pace and came to love its constant challenges and opportunities. On weekends, Clara and I would go to art exhibitions, concerts, or wander through hidden alleys searching for good food. I changed my hairstyle, bought new clothes, and learned to do subtle, refined makeup. The girl in the mirror was no longer the naive college student I once was. My eyes now held confidence and calm. I started sharing bits of my new life on social media, photos under the company's glass building in my business suit, pictures from team building events, snapshots of the city glowing at night through the office window. Each photo captured a piece of my growth and transformation. Under those posts, friends and classmates left their comments. Hannah, you're getting prettier and prettier. You look so strong and confident. Working at SkyCloud sounds amazing. Sunvale looks gorgeous at night. Keep it up. You're living the dream. Reading through each comment, I felt a warm glow spreading in my chest. Megan even messaged me privately. Girl, you've leveled up so much lately. Total transformation. If that jerk Ryan saw you now, he'd probably choke on his own pride. I smiled softly and texted her back. I don't have time to think about him anymore. And it was true. My days were filled with projects, learning sessions, and deadlines. I barely had any room left in my mind for Ryan. Every now and then, during a quiet late night, a faint wave of melancholy would rise in my chest, but it always faded the moment a new deadline pulled me back to reality. Maybe that's how it is between people sometimes. Two lives cross for a brief moment. But eventually, everyone must keep walking their own path. Ryan had completely disappeared from my world, until one day I received a call from Jason. His tone was hesitant. "Hey, Hannah, right? I mean, are you doing okay lately?" "I'm fine," I replied calmly. "Why?" "Oh, it's nothing serious," he said awkwardly. "It's just, Ryan's not doing too great these days." I stayed quiet, waiting for him to continue. "I heard he and Emily broke up," Jason admitted. "Her family arranged a date for her, Breddit, with a guy who's apparently really well off. She went with him and, well, now Ryan's kind of a mess. His work's been sloppy, he's making mistakes, and a few days ago he got drunk and kept calling your name over and over." I listened silently, feeling nothing but calm. None of this surprised me. Emily was always the type to be drawn to brilliance and ambition. Once Ryan stopped being the shining, promising guy he was in college and someone better came along, of course she'd leave him without hesitation. "So what?" I asked quietly. Jason laughed awkwardly. Nothing. I just thought maybe, if you have time, you could talk to him. Maybe help him get back on his feet." I answered coldly. "Jason, he and I have nothing to do with each other anymore. His problems aren't mine, and I have zero interest in fixing them. Please don't call me again about him." Before he could respond, I hung up. I wasn't a saint. When Ryan was at his brightest, he looked down on me and cast me aside. And now that he'd fallen, he wanted comfort? Not a chance. Time kept moving, and in the blink of an eye, I'd been in Sunvale for almost half a year. My rotation in the strategic investment department of SkyCloud was nearing its end. Thanks to my strong performance, I'd earned high praise from the department director. Among the trainee group, differences in ability were starting to show. Some couldn't handle the pressure and dropped out halfway, while I only grew more determined, earning the nickname, the Fearless One, from my colleagues. That afternoon, I was finalizing slides for an upcoming major project presentation when the assistant suddenly called me to the office of Mr. Thompson, the vice president himself, the legendary figure of SkyCloud and the direct overseer of our department. He was always incredibly busy, and it was rare for someone at my level to even meet him, let alone be summoned personally. A little nervous, I walked into the office. He was seated behind his desk, flipping through a stack of documents. "Have a seat," he said, glancing up and gesturing toward the chair across from him. I sat down, hands folded neatly in my lap, my posture tense. "Hannah," he began, his tone calm but deliberate, "you've been with the company for nearly half a year now. How are you finding it so far?" "Very well, sir. I've learned a great deal," I replied sincerely. He nodded approvingly, then slid a folder across the desk toward me. "This," he said, "is a project. This is a new project the company will launch next quarter," Mr. Thompson said, his voice calm but authoritative. "It involves applying AI technology in the medical field. I'll be personally overseeing it, and I'll need an assistant to help with preliminary research and preparation." His gaze settled on me, sharp, evaluating but warm. "I've reviewed all of your weekly reports and materials. Your analytical skills, logic, and understanding of the industry are exceptional. I'd like you to be my project assistant." For a moment, I froze. Becoming the personal assistant to the vice president, a legendary figure in the company, was something I hadn't even dared to dream of, especially after working here for less than 6 months. The excitement hit me so hard that I was momentarily speechless. "What's wrong? You don't want to?" he asked, raising an eyebrow. "I do," I blurted out, regaining my composure and standing up quickly. "Thank you, Mr. Thompson. I promise I won't let you down." The corners of his mouth lifted in a faint smile. "Don't celebrate too early. This project's pressure and difficulty are far beyond anything you've experienced before. Be prepared." "I'm ready," I said firmly, nodding with conviction, my eyes bright with determination. As I left his office, I felt as if I were walking on air. This opportunity meant so much more than a promotion. It was recognition for everything I had worked for over the past half year. And it was a launchpad for my career. My life was accelerating toward a height I had never dared to imagine. After becoming Mr. Thompson's project assistant, my schedule became completely packed. I accompanied him to high-level meetings, gained access to the company's core business strategies, and traveled across the country for field research. Mr. Thompson was an incredibly strict leader. His standards for work were nearly perfection itself, but he was never stingy with guidance. Whenever I hit a roadblock, he would point out the issue directly, relentlessly cutting straight to the core and illuminating a new path forward. Working under him was intense, but it pushed me to grow faster than ever before. That day, we had just returned from a business trip to the capital and landed at Sunnyvale Airport. As we stepped out of the arrivals hall, I suddenly noticed a familiar figure standing among the crowd. Noticeable, but only because he looked so out of place. Ryan. He had lost weight, his once sharp features now drawn and tired. His shirt was wrinkled, his hair messy, dark circles heavy under his eyes. He stared at me with a mix of confusion, regret, and something I couldn't quite define. I frowned instinctively, pulling my suitcase closer and trying to walk past him. "Hannah?" He rushed forward and stepped in front of me. Mr. Thompson stopped as well, glancing back with a questioning look. "Do you need any help?" he asked politely. "No, sir," I said quickly. "Please go ahead. He's just an old classmate." I had no desire to revisit the past. Mr. Thompson nodded and walked away without another word. "Let's talk," Ryan said hoarsely. "There's nothing left for us to talk about," I replied coolly. "Just 10 minutes, 5 minutes, he pleaded, his tone desperate. "I flew from Eastbridge just to see you." Looking at him like that, so small, so pitiful, I felt no sympathy, only exhaustion. "Ryan, it's over. What's the point of clinging to this any longer?" His eyes reddened. "I regret it, Hannah," he said, gripping my hand tightly. "I never should have gone to Eastbridge. I never should have left you for Emily. I didn't realize until I lost you. I can't live without you." "The thing you can't live without isn't me." I pulled my hand free, my tone steady. "You just can't accept that you've failed, that no one admires you anymore. What you're mourning isn't our relationship. It's the image you once had when I admired and depended on you." He froze completely, as if I had stripped away the last layer of pride he was hiding behind. His face turned pale, all color draining away. "Hannah, please," he said, his voice trembling. "Give me one more chance. Let's start over. I'll come back to Sunnyvale. We can work hard together again. Can't we go back to how things used to be?" "We can't go back anymore." I looked at him, my gaze calm but unwavering. "Ryan, you never really understood me. You think I came to Sunnyvale just to prove something to you? I didn't come here for anyone else. I came for myself, for the Hannah who wants to stand tall on her own, who wants to see a bigger world." Our goodbye at the airport wasn't the end, but it should have been. Ryan, however, seemed determined not to let go. He quit his job in Eastbridge and actually moved back to Sunnyvale. He rented a small apartment near my company and waited outside the building for me every single day without fail. He would show up holding my favorite pastries or a bouquet of fresh flowers, standing among the crowd, watching me with eyes full of longing. It didn't take long for his behavior to become the talk of the office. My coworkers started whispering about me having a devoted ex-boyfriend, acting out a real-life redemption story. The rumors became a nuisance. I warned him several times not to come anymore, but he pretended not to hear, stubbornly trying to show his remorse in his own way. One night, I worked late into the evening. As I walked out of the building, I saw him again. The winter wind in Sunnyvale cut like glass. Ryan was wearing only a thin coat, huddled against the cold, holding a thermos in his hands. When he saw me, his face lit up with a forced smile. "Hannah, you're finally done. I made soup for you. Drink it while it's still warm." I looked at his pale lips and bloodshot eyes, the dark exhaustion under them. But instead of pity, I just felt tired. How had we become this? Two people locked in a pitiful, exhausting tug-of-war. "Ryan," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "what do you want?" "I want us to get back together," he said, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "No," my voice was firm. "Why not?" His expression darkened instantly. "Just because I made one mistake, you're ending everything? Everyone makes mistakes. Why can't you give me another chance?" "Because you still don't get it," I replied coldly. "I didn't leave you because you made a mistake. I left because I finally saw who you really are, selfish, arrogant, and incapable of respecting me as an independent person. From the beginning, we were never walking the same path. We just happened to travel together for a short while when we were young." I turned to leave, but he suddenly grabbed me from behind, pulling me into a desperate embrace. "Hannah, don't go." His voice broke as he buried his face into my neck. "I know I was wrong. I really know it now. Please, don't leave me. I felt his hot tears fall against my skin, the same man who once carried himself with such pride now crying like a lost child in my arms. My body stiffened. I didn't push him away, but inside I felt nothing but cold emptiness. Tears are precious when there's still love. They can bring comfort, softness, even promises. But once love is gone, tears become meaningless, even irritating. After a long silence, I finally spoke, my tone calm to the point of cruelty. Are you done crying, Ryan? He froze, his sobs suddenly stopping. Under the dim yellow streetlight, his tear-streaked face looked even more pitiful. He tried to say something, but I cut him off. Everyone has the right to choose. And we also have to learn to take responsibility for the choices we make, I said quietly. I gently pried his fingers away from my waist, one by one, then turned to face him. You chose Emily. You chose Eastbridge because it was easier. You chose to belittle me so you could feel superior. All of that was your choice, and now I've made mine. I looked straight into his eyes, my voice steady and clear. I chose to stay in Sunvale. I chose to rely on myself, and in that choice, there's no longer a place for you. Ryan froze, his body trembling as he stumbled back a step. His eyes dimmed completely, filled only with hollow despair. I understand, he murmured, his voice so faint it was almost swallowed by the wind. He looked at me one last time, long and deep, then turned around and walked away, step by step, into the endless night. His silhouette stretched beneath the yellow streetlights, long and lonely, until it disappeared completely. This time, I knew he wouldn't come back. I stood still, staring in the direction he had gone until there was nothing left to see. Then I took a deep breath, the icy air filling my lungs, making me feel clear-headed and free in a way I hadn't felt in years. After that night, I never saw Ryan again. I heard later that he eventually left Sunvale and went back to his hometown, settling into a quiet, ordinary life. As for me, I kept moving forward. I continued my journey at SkyCloud, pushing through challenges one after another. A year later, I successfully passed the final evaluation of the management trainee program and was officially retained in the strategic investment department, becoming the youngest project manager in the company. Sometimes, I still think about that boy who once stood beside me on the rooftop of the library, his eyes shining as he spoke about the future. But that memory no longer hurts. It's simply a brief prelude in the song of my youth, a reminder to always stay clear-headed, independent, and true to myself. My future still stretches before me, vast and limitless, filled with stars and oceans waiting for me to explore. The end.